Hello again and welcome back to another one. And today we have a couple of topics to cover, from one that continues the conversation on Toby that is centered on Jay-Z, as some users are actually convinced that it was a shot at Jay-Z, and some have even expanded that it was bait in reaction to the song. Check this out. For instance, I actually think it is a shot at Jay if Jay chooses to take it that way. I think M is about it right now, and this was on to the point that we got to hear from Royce the 5'9", who cleared the air a few hours ago on this debate, and we'll expand on this in a bit. Today we also have more linked to Detroit rappers and their relationship with Eminem, and this continues what we've seen in the past, as the upcoming rappers clearly didn't have access to Eminem, and because of this there's been salt in the air in the Detroit scene, which is fine, but they choose to continue speaking for the city as a whole, a city with over 500,000 people, and this time rapper Skilla Baby was the unelected official speaker for hip-hop in Detroit, and we'll get to what he had to say about Eminem a few hours ago that sparked some interesting reactions, even from some unelected speakers that joined in, and boy, did he put his foot in his mouth, and we'll expand on this later. And today we also have more on Rick Ross and his crew getting their bum whooped in Canada, and 50 Cent is yet to let this go. More on this in a moment, and starting with Eminem's latest drop, Toby, that features Big Sean and Babytron. We've got more detailed reports on how it performed in its first 8 hours of release, since it was released quite late, and according to reports, it was the top new release pretty much nearly everywhere that counts. However, we got more on its first full day of release on Spotify and Apple Music, and on Spotify, Toby was the biggest gainer on its first full 24 hours, up to number 33 on global Spotify with 2.69 million streams, and this made it the third biggest rap song in the world behind Not Like Us and Houdini, and this sparked responses like Kendrick and Eminem are saving male hip-hop, and this is pretty much evil Dr. Dre right now in 2024 thanks to Aftermath.
You people should be thanking Christ that I am who and what I am, because you need me. You need me to save you. You do. I am the only one who possibly can.
But something even more strange is happening right now, since Apple Music added the page for the death of Slim Shady that showed we are in for 19 tracks on the album. And since this page was created on Apple, Eminem's upcoming album, of 2 songs alone, Houdini and Toby, is now charting on Apple Music top albums list, and Eminem's new album debuted at number 15 on the worldwide charts, and it is not even out yet. And broken down by countries, the album is already top 25 all genres in 26 countries, including the United Kingdom, Australia, United States, New Zealand, Canada, etc. So pretty much all the huge markets apart from Japan. And speaking on the United Kingdom, the death of Slim Shady is already climbing the charts, as on the release day of Toby, it charted at number 10 on Apple Music top albums list and moved up to number 7 today. And this is all happening because Apple created a pre-order page for the album, so the algorithm picked it up as a full album because of Toby and Houdini are putting out huge numbers, enough to make the top albums chart. But don't expect the album to officially chart in any countries of these numbers. But right now, nonetheless, the death of Slim Shady is charting on Apple Music top albums list in 68 countries around the world. And moving on, speaking on the whole debate on if Eminem was taking shots at Jay-Z on Toby, well, word about this got to Royce when a user asked on IG, "You're not gonna answer this, but they saying M was throwing a shot at Jay in that Toby joint. Is that true?" And Royce quickly shut this down. Of course not. So like we pointed out in our last coverage, it was more at Billboard for that top 50 list. But some people aren't convinced, as this was also met with responses like, "He's not gonna say yes, to be fair, he loves Hove," and more. Royce trying to keep the peace. Eminem 100% was talking about Jay-Z. It was too obvious. The Empire State scheme, along with ripping rappers, Renegade. But like we already pointed out in the last video, Eminem was pretty much saying what most people already agree with, that he took Renegade. And as far as I know, even Jay-Z has alluded to this about Renegade. But what are your thoughts? And moving on, before we get to yet another Detroit rapper speaking for the entire Detroit city and claiming that everyone in the city doesn't listen to Eminem because, you know, he knows the music taste of over 500,000 people, well, 50 Cent continues to clown Rick Ross, who is hell-bent on proving that he did not get whooped in Canada, as a few hours ago he shared this clip to prove that he wasn't hiding a black eye.
My eye? Hey, man.
But users aren't buying it because knowing Rick Ross, he took too long to share some proof. Hence takes like, that boy iced his eye all day for this video, loudly crying emojis. For someone who is always on IG, it certainly took too long to finally share some proof. So I agree with this take, and more, body gave it time to heal, lol. And 50 Cent was recently on IG Live reenacting Rick Ross and his crew getting punched in Canada. Check out a snippet.
You know what I'm saying? You saw that shit happened in Canada. Rick Ross got fucked up, man.
All his bodyguards need to resign, nigga. Them niggas, they failed the number one thing. They ain't got nobody body, including their own. I mean, one nigga just stayed down that bitch and kept letting them.
Something ain't right.
Something ain't right.
I think that's wrong. Something, son, just ain't right. What's going on? But man, I can go this motherfucker all day with y'all.
Keep them up, something ain't right.
Yo, maybe let me that's that Harlem Hunt 25th Street in me.
Yeah, I went to
That's that Grand Project in me.
And some have now expanded in response to this from 50. If Drake got touched, Rick Ross would have been clowning. Ross always be trolling. Nobody cared when Drake's mansion got shut up. Nobody cared when Kendrick Lamar said Drake should die. Uncle Luke playing double standards because Ross is from Miami. And 50 got rap fans writing think pieces about how to hate like a real man. The reason why 50's hating is generally acceptable is because it is not some clown bum sneaky BS crap. Mr. Curtis, I'm your biggest hater, Jackson, hates with his full chest. And that is a manly trait. If you hate a dude, hate him and be honest about it. Like Joe Budden's hate for Drake, that is clearly personal, but he acts like it is because Drake became a quote pop star. Like just own up to it. As word on the street is that Drake took his girl, and there's no shame in admitting this. I'm sure most people would agree that is a valid reason. And moving on, we got to hear from another Detroit rapper about Eminem a few hours ago, and on the Baby, This is Keke Palmer podcast. Check out some snippets.
The best Detroit rapper is Eminem, but the gag is...
I don't know, because if you think number-wise, Eminem is the best Detroit rapper, but the gag is nobody would say that in Detroit.
Woo! Now that's T-Boo. Who's your favorite? You can't say you. Who is your favorite, or what is culturally known in Detroit as one of y'all top rappers that maybe the world wouldn't even know?
I don't know.
Say what now?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Because, like, everybody had their turn being Detroit's favorite rapper. Sada Baby had a turn, T Grizzly had a turn, Doug had a turn, Babyface Ray had a turn. These is one of Detroit's best rappers now. Baby Smooth, Big Kids, a lot of artists that just had their turn. Rocane, like, everybody had their turn being the best in the city.
So bro wasted no time to shut down Eminem's number one, but in the same breath couldn't name the one rapper that is the best. All we got were a collection of names. Perhaps he didn't hear the question that started the whole thing.
What we lack is consistency. Nobody has consistently been Detroit's best rapper or favorite rapper.
Consistency? Interesting.
Like we had groups, Team Eastside, Doughboys Cash Out. They all been Detroit's favorite at a point in time. Nobody has consistently been the top rapper in Detroit.
But it gets better, as we even got the classic of one person deciding to speak for everyone.
Now, number-wise, Eminem. But nobody in Detroit plays Eminem right now, I'm not gonna lie. And I was an Eminem fan as a kid, so I'm a fan of Eminem, but do we consider him our best rapper? I don't think Detroit does.
So you heard the classic Speaker of Detroit says Detroit doesn't consider Eminem the best rapper from the city. And this was met with takes like bench players talking like starters, I hate it. And some are out here questioning the unofficial speaker of the people of Detroit.
How dare you!
Is Skilla Baby the voice of Detroit? But we got more on this on IG as another unofficial speaker for the city decided to speak up. If you're not from Detroit, which I am, you won't get this. People from Detroit have a lot of love and respect for Eminem, but there's a disconnect most of y'all outside of Detroit wouldn't understand. The majority of folks from Detroit aren't gonna say Eminem, and like I said at the start of the video, because they got no access to the biggest rapper in the world, it created salt in the air. And we got Lil Boosie on the line to tell us more on this and why this happens.
And it's always like that, wherever you from, you will get hated the most. You know, most rappers die in their own city. It's a fact. And you know, you have haters who was in school with you and they mad because they was in that third grade class with you, but they don't have the same hustle as you. You know, they hate you for no reason. They hate you for your success. If you was a local rapper and you didn't have much, they would love you. You know, and these people, you develop hatred in your own city.
And to make it worse, they would never agree that the reason they are salty about Eminem is because they got no access to him. Being an honest hater takes you a long way, just like that user expanded about 50 Cent. Be straightforward, it is the best policy. And this reminds me of what happened in the Stan music video when Extreme Love turned to extreme hate when he couldn't get access. And speaking on that inconsistency that he spoke about in Detroit, in my opinion, that is bound to continue in Detroit, because whenever the world gets to listen to some of these Detroit rappers speak, it is not reassuring.
Smell the old salt air.
And even from most of the users who agree with his take, we are still yet to get one name who is the best from Detroit. That will be all for today. Share your thoughts below. Thanks for watching and see you on the next one.